Hey everyone! This edition of Fashion Vocabulary Video Dictionary will focus on evening wear and bridal terminology. So, vocabulary for shapes of gowns, lengths of veils, lengths of trains, and some design features. And I'm drawing everything out so you guys can see a little bit of how to draw everything. First up is this sheath or column gown, fitted at the waist, but still close to the body, kind of straight up and down. And this is a sweetheart neckline. Sweetheart necklines look like a heart, the top half of a heart at the neckline. So they dip in the center, in between the breasts. They can be a little bit pointy or they can be rounded, and you can have sleeves, you can have little cap sleeves. It can be completely strapless, but that little heart shape over the breasts makes it a sweetheart neckline. And then you just have on your left a straight across strapless, or a strapless straight across, whatever. I don't think that one has a fancy name. I've never heard one. Make sure that whenever your body twists, your croquis figure twists, you want to get those seams in there. Here's a side view of your basic column shape. Follow the contours of the body. If you are watching my Drawing Clothes on Body series, then you know I always draw ellipses around the form to make it look like the gown is wrapping around the body. So over the breasts, under the shoulder blades, an ellipse around the feet for the hem, and of course side seams. Here's a deep plunging V-neck. So here I'm going to draw a mermaid gown and a trumpet gown. What's the difference? One of them flares out at the knees. Okay, it's all fitted close to the body up until you hit the knees, and then it flares out. And the other one, everything is all fitted and close to the body, and then it flares out at the hips. Okay, which is which? Okay, you have 3 seconds to guess. I think that was more than 3 seconds. All right, so the mermaid is the one that I'm drawing here, where it's all fitted to the knees and then flares out. And then the trumpet flares at the hips, and it creates a more gentle curve and less dramatic shape. And you're like, I love drama. I want mermaid gowns all over the place, all over my runway. But just remember this, all right? Mermaid gowns are very glamorous, but almost impossible to walk in. I want you to pause this video. I want you to get up and try to walk gracefully while not moving your thighs very much. Because when you have a mermaid gown, your thighs, you don't get to move your thighs too much. You can only move your calves. So when you are casting a runway show with mermaid gowns, make sure your girl knows how to walk. So here's a trumpet gown. It flares at the hips, or about mid-thigh. You could give it a side seam, or you can make it bias. I mean, you can make any of these things bias, right? Bias cut is when the grain line is running diagonal on the body instead of straight up and down. Here's a turtleneck halter. A halter is any neckline where it's cut close to the neck and all the shoulders are bared. And this one has a turtleneck, so turtleneck halter, halter turtleneck. And an A-line is just an A-line. It flares out gently from the waist. So the skirts aren't huge, okay, but they are full. I'm going to drop in a side seam here. And princess seams. Okay, those wrap around your bust for fit and then go straight to the end of the dress, end of the top, wherever the next seam hits. And here is a skirt that gets its fullness from a lot of gathers. Do you see how the A-line skirt was smooth at the top and it just flared gracefully from the waist? This one has a bunch of gathers going into the waistband to create a big skirt. Mock turtleneck with cap sleeves, so very 1990s Sharon Stone. Yes, I just dated myself. Whatevs. And then in this one, I'm creating the fullness by folding in waist to floor, very big inverted box pleats. So you're going to have these long folds, and then the inside of the pleats are cut way deep inside. These are all ball gowns. Ball gowns are any gown where it's fitted at the top and you have a big old skirt, and it doesn't describe a basic skirt size or anything. We have kind of, on the far left, you have a much more conservatively sized, easy to navigate ball skirt. And then on the far right, you have a giant monstrosity, like the thing that I designed my senior year of college, that my department chair called the Rose Bowl float because it was so big. So yeah, I mean, ball gown, anything that has a giant skirt, just automatically a ball gown. A Queen Anne collar is a collar that is a stand-up collar on 3 sides in the back, and is open in the front. And a basque waist is a waistline that is pointed in the front. It can be pointed, up high towards natural waist or lower down. This is a drop waist sort of look because the waist seam is around her hips and not near her belly button or her waist. I'm just drawing a little corset top here with busks in the front and bone channels. And let me know if you guys want a corsetry vocabulary video. This is a square neck because it looks like a square. This is an empire waistline, so not empire, empire. And that's when the waist of the dress sits right under the breasts. Here is a halter without a turtleneck. So again, close to the neck, exposed shoulder. Here is your high waist seam. So a little bit lower than your empire and a little bit higher than natural waist. There's your natural waist. Let's talk about trains. Most of these terms refer to A-line and ball gown skirt trains. This is called the sweep. It's the shortest one. With mermaid gowns or sheath or column gowns, close to the body, when they have a short little train that kind of tapers, that's called a fishtail hem. When I draw hems with trains, the first thing I do is draw the ellipse of the hem because I got to make sure my feet are inside the hem. You will not even believe some of the strange things that I've seen. But your feet have to be enclosed in the skirt. So make sure you've got that ellipse on the floor around your feet and not cutting across your feet. This one is easy because her legs are close together, but think about when you have poses where the legs are more apart. And then I draw the basic shape of the gown. This one is a trumpet with center back, side seams. She's a little bit twisted, so you see that side seam there. I'm putting in princess seams and godets. And I don't know why I did that, because if you watch my skirt vocabulary video, you know how much I hate godets, but let's just put some in anyway. Whatever. Okay. Longer than a sweep is your court length train. And once I have the silhouette, the seams, design elements, and then the basic shape of the hem, I go in and put in the drapes and redraw that hem so that it follows the drapes of the gown. And the drapes of the gown should follow the stiffness or the fluidity of the fabric that you are designing this gown in. Second verse, same as the first. So again, drawing this dress is the same. I draw the basic shape of it, and then I draw a giant ellipse for the hem, like this is how long it's going to be, this is how wide it's going to be. And then I finish up the silhouette and the design details. This one has gathers instead of seams, so I'm going to finish drawing all of that in there. And then I'm going to draw in the shapes of the drapes along the hemline, and then I'm going to pull in those drapes. And yeah, I move my paper around. I don't try to move my arm in really awkward angles so that I can draw with my figure always standing straight up and down. I'd rather move my paper around and let my arm flow naturally. This is a chapel length, so you know, long, really long. Look, you guys, I'm sharpening a pencil. Oh, that was a lot of hard work right there. And, you know, Cathedral, Monarch, they're long, they're really long. No one's going to be like, oh, you know, that's not a Cathedral, that's a Monarch. I mean, you could, but you would sound super snooty. Just, those words just mean I want a Princess Di wedding gown level crazy long train. That's what it means. This is called a WATTEAU back, and it's a waterfall basically. It's like one long drape that starts from the back of your neck and just flows straight down. So anything with a halter, or you know, anything where the dress goes all the way up, whether it has sleeves or not, and then the drape falls all the way to the floor. Again, draw the basic shape, draw in the drapes and the design details. Usually, when you have a big drape or big skirt like this, the closer you are to the body, the more drapes you have. And then as the train falls behind, the drapes get wider and further apart. Everything is being pulled apart. So I always draw the drapes closest to the body small like this, and then things get unfurled, okay? If you want, you can rewind and look at some of the other gowns that I drew and see that I've done the same thing. You can also have a WATTEAU back on strapless gowns like this. You just start the drape at the back, the very top of the back of the dress, like that. Let's talk about veils, y'all. I'm gonna go shortest to longest, the shortest being called a flyaway veil, and they are any veil that, you know, it's a gathering of fabric, but higher than your shoulders, so around your jawline mostly. Okay. The ones that hit your shoulder are called shoulder length. I know, so hard to remember some of those fancy words. Zoe, all these fancy words, how am I supposed to remember all these fancy words? Yeah, so shoulder length, about 19 to 22 inches, okay? Depending on how big your head is, how long your neck is, okay? I have a giant head and a very short neck, so who knows? Did I wear a veil when I got married? Yeah, I did. And the next longest is your elbow or waist length. If you've watched any of my figure drawing videos, you know I always have the elbows hovering around the waist because elbows hover around the waist. It's about 24 to 30 inches, depending on the length of your torso. always keep in mind when you're drawing veils that you have to think about what fabric you're using. I mean, you always have to draw thinking about what fabric you're using, but veils, I mean, you can do something that is just a really soft, fluffy, you know, kind of falls flat tulle because it's not very stiff, you know, it's very soft. You can have veils that are made out of very stiff net, and so they stick out very far from the body. And then you have to think about how many layers. So you can have many, many layers of soft tulle, so it's like soft and fluffy and fat. Or you could have just a couple of layers of net. So always think about the fabric, think about the construction, and then, of course, think about the length when you're designing. This is a wrist, fingertip, or hip length veil. Okay, all kind of hovers around the same spot, right? For example, I'm going to draw you guys another wrist, hip-ish length veil. But this one, I'm going to make it shorter in the front. And it's less gathered, wider, okay, not as much shearing. You know, just a couple of layers of something stiffer. So you get the full shape without a lot of gathers. Okay, little double layers. And whenever you are designing with any kind of netting, tulle, net, crinoline, always think about your hems. With veils, if you have no hem, because nets don't require that you actually sew a hem because they don't fray, you won't draw a heavy line along the bottom, okay? You'll barely see the hem at all. Okay? It'll just be like a cutoff of color. But if you want a proper hem, like you see a lot of veils with like a border of little pearls or a border with like a white ribbon along the edge, like if you have something like that as part of your design, then you need to take note of that in your sketch too. So this is a birdcage veil. It's the kind that just sits right over your face, typically made out of French net. Apparently, I learned from former students who are French that the French call French net just net. Not literally net, their word for net, but just net. This veil is about knee length. It's also called intermission length or semi-waltz length. And honestly, I would love to spend a day studying how these words came into existence and why the vocabulary words are what they are. But I don't have time for that. I wish I did. If you know why some of these vocabulary words are the words that they are, please drop me a comment because that would be fascinating to read about. Here is your floor length veil without a train, just to the floor, does not trail too much behind the bride. And then we have the veils that go to the floor and have a short-ish, I mean, they're long, but, you know, shorter trains, the waltz and the chapel, okay? And then we have some veils that are just super duper long. Church, cathedral, royal, super long, super duper long, super freaking long in that order. Okay, you know, the kind where in those movies you see the aerial shot of the bride coming down a giant cathedral and her train and her veil train is taking up like the entire center aisle as she walks towards her groom, you know, like that. Serious fashion drama. Gotta love it. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends, your brides-to-be friends, so that they can get some help sorting out how to ask for the kind of dress and veil that they want. And subscribe if you haven't already. Go practice drawing all these great, awesome evening wear things. And I will see you in the next video.